the great wealth transfer doesn't seem like everybody's ready for this. Not in a couple different ways. I mean, it sounds weird because it has to do with like the one generation passing on and then leaving their wealth, which I think nobody is ready for. But when it comes to financial literacy and how comfortable many women feel, you have some pretty alarming statistics from HSBC.
Agreed. So we did an incredible research report. We reached out to over 2,000 individuals, over 1,000 women in the U.S. And it really was the intention of the fact that we've been talking about the great wealth transfer that's going to take place for quite a while at this point. And we really want to see what's the mindset of women and are they ready for this? And so when we talk about the fact that $1 trillion in assets are going to transfer to women, and women are going to control 45% of wealth around the world. So I stopped there because that's like a huge deal and very exciting. But the sobering part of the research came back and said only 29% of women felt that they could actually attain their financial goals. So when you think about are women ready for this transfer of wealth, with only 29% saying they're confident about that, that's where we then say we have a real opportunity to really provide financial literacy and financial fluency for women to feel a lot more confident about the fact that this is going to take place.
So you see, the title of the report was The Fluency Gap. So what is it in a nutshell?
Yeah. So I think that the subtlety here, this is where we really want to move the conversation. So we've been so focused for the last couple of decades on financial literacy. And literacy is really just having the knowledge and having an understanding of finances. And the great news here is women are absolutely financially literate. That's the great news. What we're talking about here is the fluency. And the difference between literacy and fluency is understanding what to do, how to do it, and asking the right questions to accomplish it. So we're definitely getting the check mark on knowledge. And what really gets me excited is when I look at baby boomers. Baby boomer women, 60% of them are in the markets. That's amazing. But literally Gen Z, 75% of them are engaged in the market. So the knowledge is there, but we want them to have the confidence and the fluency to make the right decisions about their finances, but not on their own. It's the ability to ask the right questions of professionals to help women in those decisions about their finances.
Racquel, how much of this fluency gap has to do with language? There is still such a big intimidation factor when it comes to finance, and it could be very exclusionary to a lot of people. How much does it have to do with the fact that there's a lot of jargon that could be very intimidating?
I couldn't agree more. So what is wonderful about leading wealth management and private bank for HSBC, one of the greatest things I talk about is our ability to connect with clients and, very importantly, putting it in the language that they understand. And so what I always tell people about their finances, when you sit down with your advisor or any professional, it really says to them very simply, what's your hopes and dreams and what are you looking to attain? And it really is about you attaining your goals. It isn't about, quote unquote, your finances. And the idea here is how do my finances align that I can attain the goals that I've set for myself? So it is jargon and it's the language, but importantly, it's our job to make sure that we're making it attainable and understandable for our clients, women, and next gen.
So if we're starting that conversation now, before the time actually comes for that transfer, what are the ways for couples to talk about this, for Gen X to talk about this, millennials to talk about this, and really communicate with baby boomers about this?
Yeah, I think all of the above, and I'm happy you made that distinction, because whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, or in that retirement
I didn't say Gen
age,
Z, sorry.
Okay,
Gen
that's
Z.
fair. Well, they all count.
Okay.
And early is great. And no matter where you are, at what stage, at any point, it's a great time to start. And to the exact questions that you're asking, the way that I look at it is less about you knowing the answers to the test question, because I feel like for women, we have this precision thing in us that we think we have to have the answers, which is why we shy away from having the conversation. But for me, it's about asking the right questions of yourself. And so it starts very simply with, how do we move past the literacy part, which is affordability? So if you're going to make a massive purchase, the question you ask yourself, can I afford that? But that's what I call financial literacy. The difference of the fluency, and there's something I call, which is part of this report, it's called the glow up. And I use a framework called GLOW. So the first question you need to be asking yourself besides affordability is GLOW. G, does this actually align to the goals that I've set for myself? I told you that important question you have to ask yourself. The second one is, if I really think about this, is this aligned to the lifestyle that I've identified that I want to attain? O is, what is the opportunity cost? If I spend the money on this big purchase, what am I missing out if I weren't in the markets? And then the last one is really about that wealth question, right? What is the wealth effect? Is this actually going to help me preserve my wealth? Is it going to actually provide me the opportunity to accumulate wealth, or is this going to detract from my wealth? If you ask yourself those additional 4 questions, which is under the framework of GLOW, I then say you've moved into fluency. So it's not about having the answers, it's about asking the right questions, and then having the ability to say, decisions I make on X, what's the impact long term?
So why is the financial industry still missing the mark? We've talked about the great wealth transfer. We've talked about the numbers, the amount of wealth that's going to transfer to women. Why is it still not getting it right?
Well, I think it's hard if you think about the fact that every day you all wake up and you're focused at Bloomberg on finances. Unfortunately, one of the things that we all know fundamentally, financial literacy and financial acumen is taught nowhere. If you don't see it in your household and if it wasn't discussed at your kitchen table, you really are teaching yourself. What has changed, though, quite honestly, is democracy of information. So your ability to use the internet, your ability to be, using social media, and hopefully plugging into programs like Bloomberg, you have the opportunity to learn, but it's self-taught. And so the stigma that allows you to figure out the fact that you can actually feel confident in that conversation is where we now need to give women permission to understand, check on literacy. We really are confident, and you have to realize, stop using that as the excuse, but allow us to say it's about the questions and it's about figuring out where are my goals and can I attain them. Couple of things that's important about women too that we have to realize. It's also the complexity of women. So what I do also talk about the fact is advice is generally driven around the historical trends of men. And it tends to be a little bit more myopic on a particular goal, which is retirement. Women have quite complex lives. We're very focused. So if you look at the research, we're very clear. Women are very focused not on themselves when it comes to their wellness and, more importantly, their wealth creation. They're very concerned about the next generation. They're very focused on their parents, and they're absolutely focused on giving and community. So when you're sitting down with an advisor, what I've also talked about the importance is understanding when you're talking to women, it's beyond the singular goal. It's around embracing the complexity of women and understanding their finances go way beyond themselves. And that's part of the conversation that needs to change as well.
One of the really striking points in this report is that women's financial priorities have evolved way more than men's over the last several decades. Why is that the case? Can you please talk about that a little bit more?
I don't know if I can answer the why, but I'm going to accept that it has. And so that's why it's important to make sure that if you're giving advice, be specific to the audience. And for women, you're right. There is more depth and complexity that you need to be able to address.
I'm asking the man question, but how can men help?
That's
Excellent.
A good question.
Excellent. It's a great question. It's very simple. There's two ways. One, as a spouse or significant other, I'm very clear. Make sure your significant other and your children are in these conversations and meetings. The second one is, as you said it, how men can help. Majority of advisors are male. And so I'm very clear about when you are sitting across from a client, a male or a female, it's important that you understand the advice and the actual questions you ask of women need to look different because their needs are different, and you have to have that uniqueness when you think about how I allow you to plan for your financial life.
We're speaking with Racquel Oden, Head of Wealth and Private Banking at HSBC. Also with us, Claire Obusan, Bloomberg News Senior Editor. So I'm guessing, the way I'm thinking about this is that there's going to be a lot of money changing hands very quickly.
Yeah.
And one thing that we're trying to figure out is not just the economic implications of that, but also the changing way that women and men spend their money.
Yeah.
Because that can have serious economic effects. If we think about this economy is consumer driven. Is that on your radar? Does that shift the way that we think about consumer spending in the U.S.?
I think 100% it shifts it.
Okay.
And I think for me, that's my point of why you see my excitement about the financial glow up. This is a really incredible moment for women. The way that we think about finances is different, and where we're going to put our attention and time is different. So we also did another report called The Giving Shift. And we did another research report focusing on women and men and how they gift very differently. Not one is right or wrong, they're just different. And so for men, generally giving tends to be more about a building with their name on it. What's different about women and giving.
All right, come on.
The difference between women and giving, and we saw this in the research, it came back that women were very focused on local charities, places where they could touch and feel the community that they're impacting. So if they're going to give to a soup kitchen, they want to be in that soup kitchen. It isn't just about a name or giving. They really want it to be local in the local community.
I think of your comment, I think of Mackenzie Scott is a very prominent
great
example of doing exactly what you're talking about, right? I mean, she could have given away billions of dollars and it could have been the
on
Mackenzie
lots of buildings.
Scott everything. But instead, her approach to giving is much different. I'm not saying any of us are the wealthiest people in the world.
It's not right or wrong,
but
it's just different.
It does illustrate the point that you're making.
Yeah, it's just different. And she's giving in communities that one would say, not from her background 100%. And she did the homework. She's doing the homework. And the homework that women are doing when they talk about the giving shift is making sure, is that charity giving locally? What's the impact that it's going to have? And then additionally, whether I'm named or not, and I will tell you with the Mackenzie Scott, most of the time she doesn't want her name on it. And so that's a very different way of looking at it. But her billions of dollars, the impact she's having on society is incredible.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.